December 1944. Snow falls silently in the Ardennes forest, a place that's about to erupt into one of the most brutal battles of World War II. American soldiers, caught completely by surprise, scramble for cover as a massive German force smashes through their lines. Tanks rumble through the trees, artillery shells explode, and the quiet winter landscape transforms into a scene of absolute chaos. This was the Battle of the Bulge, a desperate, last-ditch German offensive that cost over 19,000 American lives and nearly broke the Allied front. It was a shocking, terrifying moment. But what if I told you it never had to happen? What if the war in Europe could have ended months earlier, saving countless lives? The story of how this nearly happened, and why it didn't, revolves around one of the most overlooked generals of the entire war. Let's rewind just 3 weeks, to late November 1944. An American general stands on the west bank of the Rhine River, staring across the water into Germany itself. The man is General Jacob Devers, commander of the 6th Army Group. Through his binoculars, he sees something astonishing. The legendary Siegfried Line, Germany's vaunted western defense, is quiet. The concrete bunkers, the dragons, teeth tank traps, they're practically unmanned. Devers can see German soldiers casually walking around, some without weapons, others doing laundry. The mighty German war machine, at least in this sector, looks exhausted, hollowed out. For an aggressive commander like Devers, this wasn't just an observation. It was a golden opportunity, a wide-open door into the heart of the Third Reich. He knew, with a certainty that pulsed through him, that this was the moment to strike. The war was right there, waiting to be won. Back at his headquarters, Devers and his staff worked feverishly. The plan was audacious, aggressive, and quintessentially Devers. He would launch his forces across the Rhine, bypass the heavily defended areas, and drive deep into Germany. His intelligence confirmed what his eyes had told him. The German forces opposite him were weak, a shadow of their former strength. He had the men, he had the equipment, and most importantly, he had the element of surprise. The path was clear. A breakthrough here would collapse the entire German front in the south, forcing them to pull troops from other sectors, including the Ardennes. It was a bold gamble, but one that Devers was convinced would pay off spectacularly. He believed he could end the war by Christmas. He finalized the plans, issued the preliminary orders, and prepared to unleash his army group to deliver the final, decisive blow. Victory felt tantalizingly close. Just as the wheels were set in motion, a telegram arrived. It was from the Supreme Allied Commander, General Dwight D. Eisenhower. The message was short, and its impact was devastating. Devers was ordered to halt all offensive operations immediately. He was to go on the defensive and to hold his position. Eisenhower's strategy was focused on a broad front approach, with the main effort concentrated further north under General Montgomery and General Bradley. Eisenhower's headquarters, chief, believed the terrain in Devers' sector was unfavorable for a major offensive, and that the supply lines, which were already strained, couldn't support another major push. Devers was stunned. He pleaded his case, arguing passionately that the intelligence was clear, the opportunity was real, and the risk was worth it. He believed the planners at SHAEF were prisoners of their maps, unable to see the reality on the ground. But the orders were firm. The answer was no. The attack was called off. The window of opportunity slammed shut. So, instead of charging across the Rhine into a weakly defended Germany, the soldiers of the 6th Army Group began to dig in. They prepared defensive positions, sighted their machine guns, and settled in for a long, cold winter. The momentum was lost. The element of surprise evaporated. And while they waited, something else was happening, hidden in the dense forests of the Ardennes to their north. Unseen and unheard by Allied intelligence, Hitler was secretly massing over 200,000 troops and nearly 1,000 tanks. He was gathering the last of his reserves for one final, monumental gamble to split the Allied armies and force a negotiated peace. While Devers' men were ordered to stand down, the German storm was gathering. The calm on the southern front was the eerie quiet before a hurricane. The decision to halt Devers had created the exact conditions needed for the German counteroffensive to achieve its shocking initial success. On December 16th, that storm broke, the massive German assaults crashed into the thinly held American lines in the Ardennes, creating the infamous Bulge in the front line. The very troops that could have been fighting on German soil were now caught in a desperate defensive battle. The result was the bloodiest single battle for the United States in World War II. 4 weeks, American soldiers fought heroically in freezing conditions, often surrounded and undersupplied, to halt the German advance. They ultimately succeeded, but at a terrible price in lives, resources, and time. The war, which Jacob Devers believed he could have ended in 1944, would now drag on for 5 more brutal months. We can never know for certain if Devers's plan would have succeeded. War is filled with unpredictability, but it remains one of the great what-ifs of the Second World War. This is the story of General Jacob Devers, a forgotten four-star general who stood on the cusp of a victory that might have changed history. While names like Patton, Bradley, and Montgomery are etched into our memory, Devers remains in the shadows, a footnote in the grand narrative. He was the man who saw the path to an early victory, only to be stopped by the strategic caution of his superiors. His story is a powerful reminder that history is not just made by grand strategies and famous names, but also by missed opportunities. And the difficult decisions made by commanders on the ground, it forces us to ask, what if they had just listened? What if they had rolled the dice? The Battle of the Bulge was a testament to American resilience, but perhaps, just perhaps, it was a tragedy that never needed to happen. Thank you for watching. If you found this piece of forgotten history as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that challenge the way we see the past. Let me know in the comments what you think could Devers have really ended the war in 1944. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time.